to ask the second time, but you guys are on fire. I love it. So, I love you too. But I really love the woman that we're about to hear from. So I want to set the tone this evening by starting out really, really personal. Because I've known this woman for a very long time. And you guys know I'm very private about my life. But I'm going to share something deeply personal with you. My husband is an amazing person. It's true. The first time that I ever heard another human being utter his name was in support of Kamala Harris. I was sitting at a lunch in Century City and I ran into an agent who asked me to co-host a fundraising event for this rising star, this amazing, badass woman who was running for Attorney General of California. The event was in Northern California, and it was being co-hosted by this pro bowling superstar, shut-down cornerback, I didn't even know what that meant, for the Oakland Raiders, Nnamdi Asomugha. I'd never heard of either of these two phenoms before, but I was very impressed by what I was hearing about both. I wasn't able to actually attend that fundraiser in person, so the first time that I met Kamala Harris was at a meet and greet here in Los Angeles at her best friend, Chrisette's house. I'd done a few projects with Chrisette's husband, Reginald Hudlin, and shout out to Reggie. When I saw her speak that afternoon, I was blown away. Now back then, the TV show Scandal did not exist, not even in Shonda Rhimes' imagination. But when the time eventually came to develop that character, I thought of Kamala Harris often. I mean, Olivia Pope was not a sneaker-wearing girl, as you know, but she did love a pantsuit. I will never be able to repay Kamala for all of the things that she's given me. She brought my husband and I into each other's orbits. She inspired me to be brilliant and fearless in my portrayal of Olivia Pope. She has been at different times a friend, a sage, a confidant, a guiding light. It's truly my honor to be here with her and for her in support of her extraordinary book, 107 Days. We're gonna watch a video about this, and the video just happens to be 107 seconds, so enjoy.
For you. 38-year-old Kamala Harris came out of nowhere and was swept into office as San Francisco's district attorney.
Attorney General of California, Kamala Harris.
Senator Kamala Harris.
Vice President Kamala Harris.
I am now officially the Democratic nominee. This campaign is about who we fight for. We believe in a future where every person has the opportunity not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because ours is a fight for the future. Are you ready to get to work? I promise you, I will always listen to you. The future is always worth fighting for. You guys are doing hard work here. You know, you may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last. I am here to say, while I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation. The ideals that reflect America at
thought, oh my goodness, you and I on stage, we could just get lost in like family recipes and fashion and marriage updates. Hi, Doug. So first, can I? He's right there. You in a second, Doug, because I learned some stuff about you in this book. We're gonna need to talk about, okay?
He's been making up for it.
I know he has. Okay, so my first question is, what do I call you tonight? Because I call you different things. Do I call you Madam Vice President? Do I call you Kamala? What do you want me to call you tonight?
Kamala, that's on my birth certificate.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure. You want to be official, respectful. Okay, so we're going to talk about this book. We're going to jump right in. I know that in your acknowledgments, you thank your CAA family, Brian Lord, for convincing you to write this book, for really making you aware of why this book had to get written. So what did he say? Thank God he said it. But what did he say to get you to put this all down?
So Brian was there on election night, and then came over the morning after. And we talked about it, and he said, you have to share this journey. And that I was not really in a mindset of doing it, but he was the first, and he really stuck with it and talked with me several times about it. And and he prompted me to really understand the importance of writing a book for many reasons. But among the reasons I wrote the book is these 107 days are part of America's history. Woo! And history will then write about it and tell the story of it. And I wasn't about to have history tell that story without my voice being present.
Yes!
So that is one of the reasons that I wrote the book. Another, Kerry, is, I know how we are feeling right now, so many of us, at this moment. And we'll get into that. I'm being But I do also hope that when you read the book, or when you listen to it, I did an audiobook also.
It's her voice, it's incredible.
I hope that you will also remember during those 107 days how so many people felt. The optimism, the belief of the possibilities, dare I say the joy. But remember it in a way that reminds us, and each of us, that was in us, each of us. It was in you. It was in the people who felt that, and it cannot be taken away by one election or an individual that happens to sit in the White House right now. That is in each of us. And the light that is in each of us cannot be wiped out or diminished. We cannot let our spirit be defeated. And I really do hope we are reminded then of that light, especially in the moment of darkness. Because it is that light that will carry us through this moment of darkness. And that's another reason I wrote this book.
Okay, but I want to talk about the structure of the book and choosing to write about every single one of these 107 days because, we know how it ends, right? And so it's a little bit like, it was such a ride for me, right? Because I was in the beginning, as I did feel in the beginning so much joy, and as the book would go on, it would be like, September 8th, and your beautiful voice, September 8th. 58 days to the election, and I'd be like, oh my God. And I would be in the joy with you, but also as the campaign progressed, my anxiety increased. And so I thought, what was it that made you also, it's so beautifully parsed out, like an elegant Shakespearean tragedy. And I wonder what made you do it in that way.
Yeah. So I wrote it like a journal. So it is most of the 107 days, and each one of those days is basically a chapter. And I also invite people, and some people have said to me, as I read the book and I look at the date that you're talking about, there are people who are then comparing it to their own journals around what they were experiencing on that particular day. And in that way, it is a journal of a collective journey.
And you must have copious logistical notes of where you were and what you were doing, but how did you remember the inner life, the feelings that you were having at the time, the thoughts you were having at the time? Was it just so fresh?
It was fresh, to be sure, but also, just to be very candid. So one, I tend, for better and worse, to be very task-oriented. And especially in those 107 days,
Yeah.
I need to do as much as possible each day. And my prayer every night was, God, please let me have done everything I could possibly do this day.
Let me
But
interrupt you.
Yeah.
May I?
Yes.
I just interrupted Kamala Harris.
Come on. We've been friends for a long time.
I want you to know, and I want this audience to back me up. I do want you to leave this tour knowing that we know that you did every single thing.
Obviously, those 107 days, and I did not allow myself during those 107 days any time to reflect. There was just no room for that. That day happened, I needed to move on to the next day because there was a lot to do. I was in multiple states in any given day. And probably the most difficult chapter in the entire book to write was about election night.
Oh.
And I'll just share with you the experience that Doug and I had, to say that it was traumatic for a multitude of reasons for all of us. And it took me a while to be able to process what had happened and then I started writing. But election day, so here's what had happened. So, the day before the election, the night before the election, we went to Philadelphia. There were at least, I think, 30,000 people there. We did a huge rally in Philadelphia on the Rocky Steps. And our family was with us. We did that, and then we flew back to DC after midnight, which now is election day. And every election, I have friends and family dinner on election night before we go to the campaign event, and family was staying with us. The house was brimming with family. And so I stayed in DC to do get out the vote activities, and Doug and my brother-in-law Tony went that morning to Michigan to campaign. And the reports back from Michigan, it feels really good. It feels really good. Doug and I had never talked about election day or election night until I started writing this book. Because I think many people have had the experience of when something very difficult and traumatic happens, it takes you a minute to really be able to talk about it. So he and I had never talked, Kerry.
Wow.
We had never talked about election night until I'm writing this book.
Which also, knowing you two, I mean, they talk about everything.
We do.
They don't sweep stuff under the rug. They talk about stuff.
We do, and we did not. And so it's in the writing of this book that I learned. The ground felt good in Michigan, but when Tony and Doug were on their way back to DC, they got a call from a friend of ours who's a Democrat, but is a commentator on Fox News. And he was in the war room at Fox. And he called them to say, what are you guys hearing? Because I'm very concerned about what I'm hearing. So Doug had this and was carrying this. I didn't know. He never told me until I'm writing the book. And he got back to the house, and I knew something was a little off, but I mean, everything's happening, right? He went up the stairs to take a shower and pray.
Get you a man who prays in the shower.
And he was carrying that. And then, of course, the night went on, and the call came in, and we learned. And then the next day, so we had a whole thousands of people flew into DC. We were going to have the victory speech on the campus of Howard University, my alma mater. And so we were still waiting for information to come in, and we decided to let people go, so we told them to come back the next day. And the next day then, I had to give a speech that of course I did not intend to give. And I write about this, but during the rallies, I would end the rally every time by saying what I do deeply believe, which is when we fight, we win. And often I would say when we fight, and then there you go, right? And it was a call and response. And as I'm going to Howard to give this speech the next day, I'm battling, Kerry, with how am I going to reconcile for all of the people who believe in this, and as I do, but how do you reconcile it with the outcome?
Right.
Because it was not as trivial or trite as, oh, you win some, you lose some. And so, literally on my way to Howard, I wrote into the speech something I also believe deeply, which is sometimes the fight takes a while, but we don't give up. But we don't give up, and we don't stop fighting, and we don't stop fighting.
Your writing in this book is so courageous in its intimacy, in the detail that you give us. I mean, I lost it reading Election Night. The two details that really tore me up really were Doug and his covering his fear to protect you.
Yep.
It's really so beautiful. Two other things. Having been on stage with those girls at the DNC,
yes.
When you wrote about hearing them cry through the wall, I was like, this is not okay. And then, Kirsten, is that her name? When you talked about, they had these cupcakes, we're not spoiling everything, there's a lot more in the book. Storm.
Yeah.
So there were these cupcakes that said, Madam President, and this incredible member of your staff, Storm, hand scraped the words, Madam President, off each cupcake to turn what was supposed to be a victory prize into comfort food. It's so beautifully written. Those details were what really put me back in the moment. And I wondered, were there moments for you where you lost it in writing it? Where did you feel overwhelmed in conveying what you needed to convey on the day?
Election night was probably
That was it, yeah.
the one.
Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, I've been very candid in the writing of this book, and because another reason I wrote it, there is so much about the process of running for president of the United States that is opaque, meaning the people can't really see inside. And I believe that people should be able to see inside of this process. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? And in a way that lifting the hood, as we say, on it, hopefully gives people, and in particular young people, an ability to see, okay, now I get how it works a little bit. I can see how, I feel access. I feel that I could do it or I could be in it. I think there's so much about this moment in our country that is about real issues of trust. And part of what leads, I think, to mistrust and distrust is when there's no transparency.
That's right.
And that is part of why I wrote the book.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go off on a tiny bit of a tangent.
Sure.
Trust me.
Okay.
It's Halloween week.
Yes.
This
Are you dressed
weekend,
up?
I am, but I can't
You are?
tell you what I'm dressing up as. Okay, so this weekend, for the first time, I went to Not Scary Farm. Have you ever been there? It's one of these like walk-through mazes, and it's like a haunted house,
Yeah.
and people jump out and they scare you.
Right.
It's insane.
I did that. That's 107 days.
Yeah. When I was walking through these mazes, I was thinking of you because, so Namdi and I went with the kids and a bunch of cousins, and I watched my children, at first, they were covering their eyes, you know, and hiding, and Namdi, because he's so great, he was like, you gotta make eye contact.
Right.
You gotta walk in there, you know, let that demon know he doesn't have you, right? And I watched them face their fears,
Yeah.
which I see you doing in this book. Like, you go back to look at all the demons and the ghouls, and there's some strength that rises out of facing those fears. But what's interesting to me is, as scared as they were in the first haunted house, by the time we left there, the next morning, my 9-year-old son wanted to go back. So my question to you is, I believe you haven't decided, but there's a lot of enthusiasm. I heard you, I wanted to bring it up really because I heard you on Colbert talking about when you said you weren't going to run for governor.
Yeah.
And I was excited to hear, I mean, you would be an amazing governor, but I was excited, right? But I was excited that you weren't running for governor for you. Hold on, guys. I was excited because what you said in that interview was, there's a difference between engaging transactionally with voters, trying to get people to vote for you, versus just being in community with people and being able to be a human being, right? And listen and share space and time. So I wonder, as you think about re-entering the space, because I really believe that you haven't made up your mind, how will you balance that duality of like not being transactional and really being present for just humans and not asking for votes versus needing votes? It's a tricky challenge.
Well, that's why I made the decision to not run right now. This book tour has been really a great experience for me, in that I've had the chance everywhere that I'm going to spend time and listen. And to your point, I want to do it in a way that is not transactional, where I'm there because I want somebody's vote. I think people really have to be heard right now by people in the role of leadership. I think people are in pain for a variety of reasons. Back to the trust issue, people need to believe that the so-called leaders are actually working in their own best interest. But the only way a real leader can do that is to listen to what the people tell you they want, as opposed to telling the people what they need. And that requires listening. And, you know, the other thing that I am doing now, and it really, I think we've got some difficult work to do as a country on this trust issue. You know, there is the piece that's about trust in this is nothing new. Probably it was really exaggerated to some extent based on so much trauma people experienced during the pandemic, which is to distrust systems, distrust government, because there was so much that failed people at a time of need. But there's also this other piece of trust right now in our country that's about the distrust between and among the American people. And a distrust that's not just, am I comfortable leaving my front door unlocked? But do I believe that I can trust that you are not a threat to my very existence?
Come on now,
And we have to be honest about that. We have to be honest that that is part of what's happening right now.
Yes.
And that takes work, and it has to be about spending time, having difficult conversations. But, you know, we can't talk about, you know, let's unity and bringing everybody together and kumbaya. Yeah, that's fine as a concept. How are you going to get there? Part of it has to be an accurate diagnosis of where we are to figure out where we need to be.
That's right.
And the trust issue is part of it. And especially if people feel that they are screaming for a protection from the things they fear.
Yes.
Screaming for acknowledgement of their dreams as well as their concerns. And so that's what I'm doing. It's been interesting also. I'm spending time traveling in the South. Last week,
Another haunted house.
but that's the point. That's part of the problem, I think, with Democrats.
Right, that we
is thinking that there are certain regions that are, you know, reasonable people and certain regions that aren't, and that's just wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong.
Yeah.
You know, part of the undercurrent, I think that we also have to address and work on, frankly, I'll speak for myself, is I think we really are at a moment where we should each challenge ourselves about the assumptions that we are bringing to our conclusions. And here's what I mean. The differences that we believe exist between those of us who voted one way and those who voted another. And an assumption that I think is quite commonplace, that we're just working with a different set of values and moral principles and priorities. Instead of perhaps wondering and asking, am I assuming that we're working with the same information? Right? And I purposely use the word information because fact is fact. 2 + 2 is 4 every day. But information, and part of the challenge of this moment is there are vast amounts of mis and disinformation that are targeting specific populations of people. And we're going to have to find a way to, you know, and it may be as simple, or maybe I'm oversimplifying it, I don't know, but as simple as sitting down and saying, okay, let's first start, before we talk about your opinion about a thing, you know, figuring out a way to first ask, you know, what information are you working with?
Being curious about each other.
Well, but not just about each other, like what are you, but just like literally
what information?
What information is leading you to an opinion that you have?
Yes.
To see if we are working with the same
That's correct.
information.
Right.
And, you know,
But then
are we
if
working
we're
with
not,
facts?
But then if we're not, how do we bridge the disconnect? Because people have such a belief that their approach to the information is the correct information.
Well, but let's start with, I think, the first challenge is we're working with different opinions about what is right, what is wrong, who stands for what. And we have to break it down to also ask, are we like literally working with the same information? Like the fact that, I don't know, circumcision does not cause autism. Just as an example. I'm pulling something out of my hat right now.
So did they. So one of the things that you talk about in the debate prep that was really moving to me, that whole section, was how do we get people to understand how important they are?
Yeah.
Not how important the government is, but how important people are.
Yeah.
Because the assumption is always like, we need to get people to vote about the things that matter to them. And a lot of times being out here in the field, I'm like, no, we need to get people to know that they matter first. And then they can have stuff that matters to them and express it and take action around it. What is your feeling about how we get there? How we get people to understand that they matter?
So that's a big point. And an example of your point is this nonsense, young people here, so that word nonsense, that pushing to young people, and especially young voters, that, oh, the way you will show your power is don't vote.
Right.
Which is completely upside down.
So upside down.
Right?
Like the way you show your power is to silence yourself?
So, but that's exactly right. To silence yourself, to take yourself out of the game.
Yeah.
And
You don't
so
get a seat at
part
the
of
table
it
by
is we
leaving
have
the
to
room.
deal with how people are being targeted. With the suggestion that they don't have power. Because I don't think it is a natural feeling that people have, necessarily. But there are signals that are sent to people that suggest to them, and I think are strategically placed, to suggest to them that they don't have power. I mean, you talk about voting. When I was a United States Senator representing the great state of California, I served on the Senate Intelligence Committee when we investigated Russia's interference in the 2016 election. And we declassified a lot of our findings, made them public, and it included the fact, and I pushed for this piece in particular, pushed for the fact that among the populations that were targeted by this mis- and disinformation campaign were Black voters. Because they understood that if you start targeting communities of people that already have had a lived experience that causes a distrust or skepticism about government's role in their life, that will be a vulnerable target for the purposes of therefore suggesting they shouldn't vote because the system is corrupt and it will not work in their favor. And mis- and disinformation in that regard, including in these 107 days, is alive and rampant.
Dangerous.
Around targeting specific communities to suggest to them that their vote will not matter. So how do we do it? Part of it is we have to, on a basis that is about individuals here. I mean, look at the person next to you if you don't know them. Just ask them, how you doing?
She's taking us to church.
It sounds like it's such a big thing, and it is, but it is as big as the power of an individual to talk to the person right next to them about how you doing, what's important in your life. Do you see the connection or know the connection or believe there's a connection between your vote, your ability to show up at a No Kings Day protest and make a statement about what you stand for and what you want in your government, right?
Yeah.
So there's work to be done, but we're not working with a blank slate, is my point.
Yeah.
We're working against forces that are also trying to diminish people and make them feel alone and make them feel as though there is no hope. And that is the first step to disempowerment. And si se puede.
Okay, so you stepped into my lane a little bit in this process. I loved reading about the debate prep. You worked with like my favorite director, Greta Gerwig.
Yeah.
You did animal sound exercises.
Oh, so weird.
You became like a real actor's actor.
That was so weird. It was lovely. But we had, so there's a whole couple of chapters actually on debate prep, which is really intense, and the preparation for the debate that I had, and he would only debate me once. I wanted more, but in any event, but yeah, so
Yes.
they brought in a voice coach who was going to just work with me, and I've got my whole team around me, and they're all watching. My team was like, "Oh, this is going to be interesting," and the voice coach wants me to make these animal sounds,
Which is very common in acting classes.
well, it wasn't common for me. I was like, "Come on, team, we're going to do this together."
Everybody.
I had everybody
making
making animal
yowling.
sounds. Yes.
How is it, does it feel difficult to hold on to your sense of self when there's so much feedback about the performance of who you are?
For the debate and for the convention, and that's when we brought in the voice coach. I was quite unburdened by any of that. I was running my campaign.
Yeah. We felt it.
Right, and I was going to make sure that my voice was reflective of my life, my values, my priorities, and I've been doing this long enough that I think people are done with performative politics anyway. People are done with that. Done with it.
Yeah. I want to ask you, this is probably the trickiest question I'm going to ask you tonight, because it's a little bit personal. I want to ask you about the role of surrogates and artists in the campaign. And you mentioned a handful of celebrities in your book, but not me.
You were so present. You were so present.
And I just want to be clear that I talk about Kamala Harris in my book. Very clearly, because
But you're on stage with me, Kerry.
Well, really my question is, there's a lot of feedback around, or a lot of questions that people have around, should celebrities not be doing this surrogate work? Like, should artists be more silent? Did celebrities make it worse? That's a question.
No, and I think that, listen, there are some people that are just hung up on things, and that might be one of the things some people are hung up on.
On that, what went wrong?
Well, no, on the whole point about celebrities, no. Listen, I was part of, so lots of people's opinions about lots of things. And early on, because I had, at one of my first events, Megan Thee Stallion.
Yes. And you did so great when you read about this.
And she was so fantastic, and it was one of the first events I did when I became top of the ticket. And I got calls and messages from people, well-intentioned. Why did you have her on? Why are you doing? And I'm like, look, we've got everything from Springsteen to Lil Wayne.
That's right.
And it's about this is the breadth and depth of who we are, and I'm not running from anything. If we want to actually welcome people and know that they are a part of this, there are many ways to do it. One of at the end of the book, I write an afterword, and I do there talk about also how I have been reflecting a little bit, not a lot, I can't, but a little bit on what it could have been. And one of the things on this point that I intended to do as president was create a Secretary of Culture. And I was really excited about that. Brian and I talked about it. I was really excited about doing that, right? And just uplifting America around our culture, which is so vast and deep and rich. And how can we not, I grew up, I went to a fine arts school for a while, We express ourselves in so many ways, including through performance, through music, through dance, through song, through visual arts. It's the creativity of the American people should be highlighted. It's a way that you can bring people together when the words maybe aren't what at the moment works. To show people a commonality of feeling about something. I mean, that's part of it.
Yeah.
It's about how do we make people feel.
Yeah.
Right?
And I think that's why there's such an attack right now on the arts and on culture. I think that's why arts is being so demonized and history is trying to be rewritten by
So
erasing.
provincial. These people are just provincial. They're afraid of what, the beauty of art always has been. I mean, artists have been a part of every movement in America that is about progress. Every movement. Whether as an actor, as a poet, a songwriter.
Because it is about our hearts.
Exactly, and it is reflective of the feelings that people have of any particular moment. And at the point that leaders and anyone else suggest that we should not recognize the feelings and connect with the feelings, what are we left with then?
That's right.
What are we left with?
Yeah. Not our humanity.
Well, it's one quick way to get rid of it is to
Right.
say, let's not feel and express those feelings in a variety of ways.
Energetic.
I want to talk about loyalty.
Yeah.
You are a tremendously loyal person, and it's a theme that keeps coming up again and again in the book. And I wondered, was it difficult for you to write some of the truths that you write about your relationship with the Biden administration, about your husband not getting you a birthday gift, about...
He made up for it.
He really did. By the way, I love Doug so much. Doug is the most loyal person. I once at a dinner told Doug a story about a movie producer, and Doug got mad that he had been nice to that guy a year before. Like, he's so loyal. But was it hard for you to with these people that you love, even like the stories you talk about, having, sort of perspective on Walz's performance, for example, in the debate? Like, was that hard, as loyal as you are, to reflect some of those truths in the book?
That was difficult.
Yeah.
It was difficult. But again, I think that it is important that there is a level of transparency. I didn't write everything in the book. Right? And I'm not going to. But, listen, there are many things that I have written that give, I think, the reader an understanding of the depth, the nuance, the trajectory, the momentum. And if one is going to write a book like this, I think candor is important.
You have to go there.
But not for the sake of exploiting anybody, but for the sake of just really explaining, and this is how it works.
And what can we learn?
Absolutely.
Like, what can we learn from those difficult moments? I think also, I think a lot about your journey with loyalty, and I wonder, is that what, for example, on The View, is that what made you resistant to distance yourself from the administration, do you think?
So one of the chapters is about the interview I did on The View with, I think it was very few weeks before the election. And I was asked a question which basically was, what differences are there between you and Joe Biden? And first of all, I thought the differences were obvious. So
There's that.
that's part of what I brought to it. And I basically said, they said, would you do anything differently? And I just, in my head, believed that was inviting and required a criticism of the man. And I was not about to pile on.
Yeah.
I am a loyal person. And like I said, I thought the differences were obvious. Now, what I did not, and I do reflect on that interview in the book. I mean, what I did not fully appreciate was that this was an issue for people. And because I thought it was, obvious. I'm running against Donald Trump, not Joe Biden. But I also then might, had I to answer the question differently, the truth also was, listen, I thought, for example, and I still believe, had we to do it differently, we should have changed the sequencing of some of our administration's priorities. In particular, the infrastructure bill and then the CHIPS Act. I think we should have done first the care piece.
Yeah.
That was about affordable child care, paid family leave, extension of the child tax credit. Had I to do it differently, I think we should have done it in that order and done that first.
Yeah.
To address the immediate needs of the people.
Yes.
And, that's why I made those issues actually a priority in my campaign in 107 days. So my campaign included a priority on something that was personal to me, having taken care of my mother when she was dying of cancer, which is the need that so many families have for home health care. And my policy was that Medicare would cover home health care. So many families, including families in the sandwich generation, who are raising their young children and taking care of elderly family members, parents, and stuck in between and having to make difficult decisions about do they quit their job to take care of their family members and then risk that source of income and what that means for rent, what that means for food. It's awful what's happening. Anyway, these were my priorities when I was in charge of my campaign. And in that way, a different approach.
Another word that comes up for me a lot as I was reading the book is integrity. And you give this beautiful, or you quote a beautiful definition of integrity from Jimmy Carter's grandson.
Yeah.
It comes after that crazy phone call from that person, that other person. And
Not Jimmy Carter.
not Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter didn't have a spray tan issue. So there are, but the other thing you talk about with integrity is institutions that are finding it hard to stick to their values.
Yeah.
And I really loved, again, that you had the courage to talk about the LA Times and the Washington Post and the pre-capitulation that is so dangerous. Can you talk to us a little bit about pre-capitulation, why it's dangerous, and what we can do about it?
So the editorial boards of the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times decided to endorse me. The billionaire owners of those two newspapers pulled the endorsements. So that those two newspapers didn't endorse storied newspapers
And
in the history of American journalism. Storied newspapers. And in one of the most consequential elections for President of the United States, pulled their endorsement. And so I do write about the fact that it was pre-capitulation, that we started to see, we saw the warning signs were there for what people were willing to do to bend the knee at the foot of a tyrant. And it's tragic, and I think what we are saying around capitulation, whether it be law firms, universities, media companies, newspapers, there's a variety of reasons, I think, that we are witnessing this feckless response to overt vengeance.
Yeah.
And it includes, maybe they want a merger granted, or they want to avoid an investigation, or just something that is so, I think one of the frailties of we are as humans, which is just a very naked desire to be close to power, whatever it does. And we are, yes, well it is, it's dangerous for the people who for this, this example, should be able to rely on a free and independent press to tell the people what's going on. I was in DC, I didn't go back many, many months after the inauguration, and then I went back and I met with a number of people, members of Congress and journalists. And one of the points that was made to me by people who work in and around the White House is that they are very clear that this administration does not want the American people to know the truth. Does not want the American people to know the truth. And that is why I say among the things that is about our activism and our fight, let us make sure we are supporting independent journalism. We have to support independent journalism.
And that's part of how we take care of this misinformation and disinformation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because I meet, for example, it's no secret, I love Gen Z. I love Gen Z. They're so terrific. I love them. And if you talk with any person that you have in your life who is a member of that generation of people, they're Gen Z, by the way, is between about age 13 and 27.
Oh, my generation.
And they are, when you talk with them, among the things that you will see, which I love, is they are completely and entirely impatient.
Yes.
And the rest of us waiting for us to try and figure it out. But what is also interesting in the conversations, and I convene young leaders, I love just hearing, and I ask them, how are you receiving your information? And it is mostly Insta, it's TikTok, a couple of people talk about the shade room. It's millennials more podcasts.
Yes.
But it's, so when we think about what we are supporting in the way that we can support journalism, let's recognize that there are other sources other than or additional sources at the very least, in addition to the traditional sources of information.
So we're in California. We're going to get some questions from the audience, but before we do, I would really love to talk about Prop 50.
Yes. We are going to pass Prop 50. To make sure they vote. It's on Tuesday. Early voting has started. We are going to pass Prop 50 because this is about leveling the playing field, because these people are trying to rig the system around what we are doing around congressional districts and gerrymandering, and California is standing up. And here's the thing about this moment. This is a time to not just sit back and, oh, they're cheating, and just complain about, oh, they're cheating, it's just not fair. We gotta fight fire with fire.
Research is very clear that if Kamala Harris calls somebody and says, I want you to vote yes on Prop 50, they might be a little bit inspired. If Kerry Washington posts on Instagram or TikTok and says, which I've already done a lot of, and says, please vote yes on Prop 50, people might listen. But the most important person when it comes to impacting voter behavior is a close friend or family member. So this is your moment. You can each think of 5 people for Prop 50. You text them. You want to do 10 people? Great. You text them and you let them know that this is an important moment. When they're feeling hopeless and they don't know what to do, this is something tangible that you can do here in California that impacts the entire nation.
Let's not let them cheat.
Yeah.
And that is, and I think that enough people, regardless of their level of political activism, get that point. It just like, and done with it. Stop with letting the people cheating. They gotta stop.
We don't let children do it. We shouldn't be letting grown adults who work for us. These people's salaries are paid by your tax dollars. They work for you. Can I get some audience questions? Thanks, Maya. Are you ready? Yes. Okay. So these have been already chosen. I didn't choose them. Don't be mad if yours wasn't chosen. Amanda Cortez. Where's Amanda Cortez? Right here?
Amanda?
Was there? Here?
Amanda, this was not the right time to go to the bathroom.
Well, I always say if one person has a question, lots of people do. So, what advice would you give to an aspiring prostitute? Oh, she's here. Where is she?
There you go.
Up top? There she.
Wave, Amanda, stand and wave.
Don't be shy.
Why are we all looking up there? Is that where she is?
Up over there? Anyway, okay.
Okay, let's hear it for Amanda.
Okay. What advice would you give to an aspiring prosecutor who wants to promote justice and equity from within the system, as you said on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert?
Yeah, so when I will tell you, I am a child of parents who were active in the civil rights movement. And, you know, marching and shouting in Berkeley and Oakland, California. And my heroes and why I wanted to be a lawyer were the people who fought for civil rights. Thurgood Marshall and all those folks. And then out of law school, I made the decision that I wanted to be a prosecutor. And I had to defend that decision with my family. Why aren't you going to be a public defender? Why are you going in the system? And my point was, it feels to me like we always are talking about changing the system from the outside, on bended knee or trying to break down the door. Shouldn't we also be inside where the decisions are being made and we can have an influence? And that's why I chose that career path as much as anything. And the way right now that I would advise you to think of your work is it is to do justice. And right now we are seeing abhorrent conduct coming out of the United States Department of Justice. That is not about the rule of law, it is not about justice, it is about implementing vengeance from a thin-skinned president who has spent all the time of Justice, which is our Department of Justice, is his personal tool for vengeance. And now is a time for you at this stage of your career to remember and remind that that is not what justice looks like. That is actually what injustice looks like. And, you know, your job is to do the right thing. Your job is to do the right thing. Your job is to be honest, your job is to be fair, and I'm sure if you are here, that is how you think of your job, and I thank you for that.
This next question is from Ramon Chaboya. Where's Ramon?
You're right there.
Hi, Ramon. Will you stand up? I'm obsessed with this question. Everybody remember the name Ramon Chaboya. Here's why. My name is Ramon Chaboya. I'm a proud, not me, but you know. I'm a proud 21-year-old Latino from Central California. And I plan to run for city council in 2028. Running their first campaign and hoping to make a meaningful impact in their community.
You will make a difference. Okay, I have lots of advice, and we're going to stay in touch. Okay? Seriously, we're going to stay in touch.
She means it.
I really do mean it. First of all, you are going to find that there will be many situations in which you walk in a room and you are the only one who looks like you or who has had your life experience. And part of what I want you to do when you walk in those rooms, be it a conference room, a meeting room, you're going in to get endorsements in your race, you walk in with your chin up and your shoulders back. And you remember that everyone who is applauding you now we're all in that room with you, and that we expect a lot of you. We expect that you're going to walk in there and you're going to use the voice of all the people who are so proud of you that you are in that room. Okay? So that's my first piece of advice. We're going to stay in touch, and then I'm going to talk to you about other things. Okay? I'm glad you're here.
We have one more question from Maggie Rose. Maggie, where are you? It's a great question. Hi, Maggie. So, Maggie's question is, when I have conversations about important topics with people these days, everyone has such fixed beliefs and aren't open to another perspective or having a more in-depth conversation. How can I have an open conversation with someone to try to get them to look at things in a different way?
So we talked about that a little, Maggie. I think it starts with also asking, literally, I'm going to come back to what I said earlier, because I think it really is important. Asking that person how they're doing. Like, really asking them how they're doing. How's life going for you? How are you feeling? What keeps you up at night? Because, you know, I say it so often, but the vast majority of us have so much more in common than separates us. Look, and let me just be very clear, there will always be that segment of people that you're just never going to see eye to eye. So I don't mean to suggest like we're going to all work it out together every week, right? But for the vast majority of us, there is a center place where we could start from, but we have to find it. And then the other piece is what we talked about, you know, are you working with the same information? That's real. It may be that you start a conversation also asking someone, where do you get your news? Right? Who do you listen to in terms of podcasts? What, you know, and just kind of figuring that out. But there's some real work to be done, and I thank you for asking the question, because I think we all are, and a lot of folks have just kind of given up on it. Like, it's just not, it's frustrating. I just talked to someone today who was talking about a family member that they're just, you know, that's visiting here in LA, and how that's just, you know, they're coming from two different universes. You know, right, but we've got to figure this out. And like I said, it's not going to be that everyone is going to agree on everything, but the effort is so important. Listen, part of my perspective on all of this, I was Vice President of the United States for 4 years. I ran for President of the United States. And I'm going to tell you, I say this for a reason. Part of my pain about this moment is I really do worry that we as the American people do not understand how important we are to the world. We are so important. And I don't mean the American government. I mean the American people. And the more divided we are, the weaker we are. And there will be a price for that is not only to our country. And so, you know, I start from a place of saying, look, we love our country and it's our country. I start by saying also that the power is with the people. And I start by saying we have some work to do. That is going to be about the work of us as individuals and what we do around elections and all of that. But it will start, a lot of it, with the conversations that you have. So thank you for doing that. Thank you.
you for that question. Madam Vice President, is there anything that's not in the book that you've since remembered and that you regret not having in there?
No.
About that. I just want to say, I know I was joking earlier about not being in your book, but I do want to say there was a part at the end in your acknowledgments, because you are so extraordinary, where you thank all the important people, all the fancy names, all the Brian Lords and the, and then your final thanks is to every single person who voted for you. And it's such a reflection of who you are that that's where you leave us in this book. And I want you to know that I am so proud to be part of the millions of people who voted for you. Thank you.
Thank you all for being here and taking the time.
The 49th Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris. There's a tradition.
Vote on Tuesday.
Vote on
Prop 50.
Tuesday.
Prop 50.
So there's a tradition, right? That
Yes.
we do a selfie.
Yes.
We're gonna do a selfie with all of you. Whose camera do we use for that? Here he is. She's magic. You say, I need a camera. They say it's coming in.
This is Juan Ortega. He's in the book too.